Thank you.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Willow Legal Group's Coffee Chat. We are excited today to have Andrea Howe with us. Andrea is a seasoned realtor and team leader of the Maryland. Oh, my notes are.
Maryland Home Group.
There we go. Maryland Home Group.
Oh, of RE/MAX results.
Yes. Andrea has over 15 years of experience in the real estate industry. She's passionate about building relationships with her clients and enhancing lives through her work. Under Andrea's leadership, Maryland Home Group has consistently received top recognition, including being one of the top 100 RE/MAX teams in Maryland. Andrea's approach is rooted in her core values of care, competence, and community, which she seamlessly integrates into every client interaction. Andrea is an advocate for financial literacy and generational wealth. She hosts educational webinars and seminars and community events that foster connections while empowering individuals and families to achieve their goals. So beyond the real estate market, Andrea is an avid outdoor enthusiast who enjoys hiking and paddleboarding and most of all, Latin dancing. So Andrea, welcome. We're so grateful to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So tell us a little bit. I find it really interesting, the connection between financial planning and aligning your financial plan with real estate and your real estate goals. Tell us some more about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of looking at your overall goals. You know, a lot of times people are like, oh, I need to buy a house. They really need to look at all of the goals, the short-term goals, the long-term goals of their life. Oftentimes people just have been taught you need to buy a house. Well, if you're only living in the area for a year, that's probably not the best strategy. You want to look at the long term and actually speak to your financial planner along with your tax advisor. And like you should have a whole team to kind of align what it is you want to do. Are you buying real estate to live in? Do you want to eventually have that be an income producing property? You know, are you going to be retiring in 5 years, or do you have kids that are going to be going to college? And that informs us really of maybe how much you should spend on real estate. Should you buy now or rent? So you really do want to align real estate with the rest of your financial life to make sure that it fits seamlessly. It should be a part of it, not something that's going to prevent you from reaching your other goals.
Oh, that's a good point. I think a lot of people have that goal, or I want to buy a house.
Yes.
But if you end up being house rich, cash poor, it probably doesn't serve you as well as you thought it would.
Exactly. And buying is not for everyone. Yes, it's the American dream and it's wonderful. And I feel it for me, especially, it is part of my financial goal in creating generational wealth. But again, if you're moving all the time, you're actually going to lose money in buying and selling. It's a long-term goal. So you need to make sure that you're kind of looking at the big picture, which I try to help people do, and asking a lot of questions and not be house poor. Yeah. You know, if you love to travel, you probably don't want to buy that huge expensive house that's going to cost you a lot of money to maintain. Maybe you want something smaller that is maintained for you. It's really finding all the puzzle pieces and putting it all together.
Yeah, something you said that just made me think about our older clients, right? Those seniors thinking about downsizing, and does it make sense to, you built up wealth in this home that you've purchased, right? But maybe you don't need all of that space, and working with a team and having an expert can help you think through, is it better to rent and maybe put that money to work, or what are your other goals for retirement? And maybe selling and using that to achieve some of those goals better.
Yes. And actually, I I love working with older clientele because I helped my dad move out of his house. You know, we're the sandwich generation where we're taking care of kids, we're taking care of our parents. And the question is really, what do you want in the long term? Yes, you want to retire, but do you want to leave a legacy for your children? I know that my ex-mother-in-law, she inherited some real estate, which then made her really love having rental properties because they kept the house, they rented it out. So she built her wealth. And then once she was retirement age, they kind of sold off properties. And so now they've helped their children buy. So not only are they leaving behind homes, but they've actually like sold one to pay for college for one of their kids to help the other one buy a house of their own. So again, it's not for everyone, but that's why I think you really need to ask a lot of questions and see what is that end goal. Retiring? Do you want to be here? Do you want to move away to another country? What do you want to do for your kids? Which is, I love teaming up with you guys because that is that team. You need to have an estate person, a financial person, an accountant, a realtor to really kind of ask all of those questions.
Yeah. So, and I think along the same lines, or it's something that you just said was, and I hear a lot, how do I help mom and dad move?
Yes.
How do I help them when they have that attachment and they need to move? Do you have any thoughts or advice or helpful tips for those sandwich generation kids that are navigating this?
It is very challenging. And sometimes we have to get help. That was the biggest takeaway for me. I actually got a certification in helping seniors because it is so emotional. And we as our children, we tend to come in like, oh, you don't need all this stuff. You've been hoarding, like, you would not believe what was in my parents' attic. It was disintegrating. And so in trying to work with them, it was so hard. Somebody suggested I bring in a third party. And we hired a young college student to come in and go through things with my father. And really kind of make him see that, some of the things he could just take pictures of, he would bless somebody else by, and in helping him understand that while things have value to him, my kids and I did not necessarily have space for those things. They were beautiful and we could take a picture and we could talk about and remember them and then bless somebody else with it. Mm-hmm. There's actually a great book that AARP put out about how to get rid of all the things, how to talk to your parents. But again, having somebody like me being that third person to kind of come in and tell them how it really is, because they're not going to listen to their kids. And we have to go with empathy. Mm-hmm. It is hard. And now that I'm kind of going more towards that older age, my parents have passed, my kids are kind of rough with me. And so we really have to find empathy for our parents. And it's so hard because we have so much going on in our lives. Sometimes we don't have the patience. And that's why it is good to have a team to kind of go in together, have somebody else talk to them that is neutral. Yeah. So
yeah, I think you brought up a good point too, that people, my grandmother recently passed and my mom they had done a lot of downsizing already because she was living with my mom. But my mom keeps texting us and she's like, who wants grandma's John Wayne movies? And we're all like, nobody wants this stuff. Like, it's that there is that attachment for the person who owned it, but then nobody wants your crap. Like,
sadly, yes.
And so my mom is actually starting to be like, well, why do I still have all this crap from when I was in high school? Do any of you want it? And I'm like, no, we don't. Yes. So yeah, it's hard.
And life has changed and it's hard for them too, because like my parents were like, we got all of these dishes to pass on to you as an asset. They consider them assets. We have your grandparents' cuckoo clock, whereas nobody wants them anymore because now we're all minimizing.
Right.
Tiny homes. And so what they considered assets are depreciating now. The longer they keep it, the less they can get for it, and they almost have to give it away because nobody. And I actually had an estate company come in, an auction company, to sell things online, and my parents were shocked how little they got for it. Assets are really things that can produce income. Like a home is an asset. Dishes are not.
Yeah, and the coin collection might not be worth what we think it's worth. We see that in probate estates often, where it's like they want you to go get an appraisal, and the appraisal is going to be $5,000, and the item is only worth a couple hundred. It's like not even,
Yes, and I see when people pass and they pull me in to sell the house or figure out what to do, or sometimes a senior will pull me in. It is shocking because when there is not pre-planning, it gets to be a disaster. Like, I wish everybody dealt with you before it got to be they've added kids to the deed when they shouldn't have. Nightmares.
Don't get us started on that.
Then we can't sell it. Yes. Or I had a lovely aunt who, bequeathed my cousin with her home, which was so generous. But what she didn't consider, it still had a mortgage. And so it was more of a burden for a while than it was a blessing. We figured it all out. But, I know that I've worked with you guys because I don't want to leave that burden to my children.
Right.
Real estate can be such a blessing and such a wealth creation if done right.
Yes.
Yes. So, yeah, and you do, all those goals, you really do want to make sure.
Yeah. And so, talk to us a little bit about the real estate market right now. Well, yes.
So much fun. The last few years have been very tricky. And I think we got a little spoiled during the COVID years because the interest rate was so low. And now people are stuck in their homes because their payments are so lovely and so low. And to be able to move on to another home with a higher interest rate, which historically is still low.
Right.
It's like my parents' first house, 18% interest. My first house, 10% interest. But it's a little difficult because the prices have risen so much. And so with the interest rate being where it is, and it's not coming down, our economy is too strong really for the Fed to lower the rate. So we're stuck there for a while. It's not getting any better. And we don't have a lot of inventory because people are stuck in their homes. A lot of older people cannot move on because in order to downsize, they would have a higher payment wherever they're going if they don't have enough equity. So it's just a little bit of a tricky market. So people need to make sure that they have a good amount of down payment. Their credit is good. There's things that they can do ahead of time. So when they enter the market, they can move quickly. They want to be pre-approved. And so when something comes on the market, sometimes it's still competitive. What I've been telling people is look for the ones that have been sitting a while. Because we had such a strong market before and it's shifted a little bit, people have been overpricing their homes and then lowering them, which makes it look like, the prices are crashing. It's not. They just overpriced. The condition has to be good because if you have a huge payment every month, you don't want to get a fixer-upper necessarily, right? Those houses sit for a while. So if you're willing to maybe take on a little bit of a project that's been sitting for a few months, you can get a good deal without being in a competitive situation because you offer lower, you can still get your inspections. A lot of people have been giving up inspections. Don't do that. Let somebody else, because that can ruin you financially if there is something like a septic system that fails. If you have not done so I tend to tell my people, I know you might lose out on some that you make an offer and you might lose out because they take an offer that has no inspections. That's okay. Let somebody else deal with that.
Yes.
You stick and every single time, if you stick with it, if you're patient, if you have an agent who's patient, like don't let yourself be rushed. Don't let them make you like, no, you have to offer more, give up your inspection. Don't do that. Just be patient. Your house will show up. And every single time, if you're patient and you do that, you will find a lovely home, often better than the ones you lost out on.
Yeah.
I confirm that from personal experience.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and sometimes it needs some paint or something. That's an easy equity builder.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get it for less, and then you can fix it up the way you like it. In my personal one, I actually ended up having, after my divorce, I had to buy a tiny little townhouse that was just so ugly. It was just so awful. We took up the carpets. I didn't have the money to actually put new carpets, so we painted the subfloor. I've now doubled the value of that house. It is now an investment property. So sometimes you start small.
Yeah.
And work your way up.
Yeah.
We meet you where you are.
And I think that's key to finding a good realtor is someone that will take the time to do this. You mentioned patience, but also the questions and finding out what are your goals and really someone who's not just there to either sell your house or help you purchase a house, but to find the right house, which is, fits all of those things.
Exactly. You want somebody who empowers you.
And somebody who will tell you, no, walk away from this house. I don't care that you love it. Here are all the problems with it.
Exactly. And we do need to do that.
Yeah.
And, my job is not to help you. Well, my job is to help you make an educated decision.
Right.
My job is not to make that decision for you. And we do see that sometimes, And
I'm going to start using that.
Yeah. I mean, you're the same way. Right? Yeah. You can't tell people what to do. Yes. You inform them of all the possibilities of what could happen, should happen. Mm-hmm. And then they get to decide for themselves. You are empowering them.
Yep.
I empower them. And, sometimes the first person you talk to is not a good fit. True. I always say that to people, like, let's go sit down, let's talk and see if we're a good fit, because it's a huge investment. You need to be comfortable. You need to feel like that person actually has your best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And as a realtor, when we help buyers and sellers, our fiduciary responsibility to them is to put them before our own needs.
Right.
So you just want to make sure that you find somebody like that.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%. So
yeah.
What inspired you to become a realtor and start doing this work?
Well, I actually got into real estate to invest. However, the timing was not so good. I got my real estate license in 2008.
Oh.
To flip houses with my then husband, who had a modeling company. Well, as you know, 2008 was not a good year for real estate. And I had been staying home with my kids. I actually homeschooled my kids for a while. And then we lost everything. His business, the marriage, everything. And I decided, hey, why not stay in real estate? I had no job. I was a travel agent before. There was no jobs there. You couldn't get a job anywhere. And so I clawed my way through 2008. I used to do short sales, and I just loved it. I love helping people. I help them get out of houses that weren't serving them, that they couldn't afford anymore. I help people get into their first home. It's just such a rewarding career. So, and in the beginning, I had to have some part-time jobs to support. I didn't have a home of my own. It took a while, but yeah, I love it.
So, and what's the one piece of advice that you would give people when it comes to thinking about real estate and purchasing a home or selling a home?
Get a good team on your side. A good realtor, but also a good tax person, a good financial advisor. You guys, having that team in place so you can ask questions and have them work with each other to make sure that your short and long-term goals are met, I think is really important. I think sometimes people don't realize that they need more than one person on their team. Mm-hmm. Insurance person too. We want to have a really good insurance person to make sure you protect those assets. Mm-hmm. Just get a good team, and then they can help you figure out the rest. Because you don't know what you don't know. Right?
True.
Yeah. All right. So our last question is, what's one thing that you couldn't live without in your day-to-day life?
Chocolate.
I love it.
I'm a chocoholic. What can I say? I actually have lived without it, but it gives,
But there's no reason to.
No, it's the only vice I have left. So
That's good. That's
Good one. Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
And
okay.
my personal trainer actually incorporates that. Eric, we have the same personal trainer.
Yes, we do.
He's like, you don't have to go without. We just adjust everything else.
Exactly. It goes to budgeting and conversations we've had about budgeting. It's allocating. Allocate those calories to the things you love.
Yes,
Like
it's the same
chocolate
as
or wine.
Yep, it's the same with your financial budget. Yes.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's all interrelated.
There's
Health, wealth, and wellness.
Somebody told me once, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
It's true.
Yeah.
And it is true.
100%.
Agreed.
Yes.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. This has been fun. Thank you very much.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.